We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Morris Beagle's with us. He is the producer of the Southern Hemp Expo. Starts today over at the fairgrounds. Tell folks, how can they go about getting tickets and the like? You know, it's not sold out. People can go, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you, it gets busy. It gets busy. But we've got information on the screen there. So it's Fairgrounds Nashville, right? And tickets can be purchased online. Can you purchase them at the door there as well?
You sure can.
Okay. And like I said, you show up to that, and it's just to me, it's really neat the way all the booths are set up. And I know you have, between the booths and the different vendors, you also have speakers that will be there, right?
We've got two stages. We've got a business conference stage that's a higher end paid ticket, and then there's an education stage on the expo floor where anybody that attends the expo can come in there and see speakers both days, on tomorrow and on Saturday.
The business aspect of it, I remember back 4 years ago when I went to this, and so many people were interested, and you're right, it exploded. I have a friend that runs a berry farm, and I was talking to him about, hey, this hemp thing's going, and he ended up, a portion of his farm, he has blueberries and strawberries and all that stuff, and he looked into it, checked out the expo, and he set up a portion of his field, and over the past 3 or 4 years has been growing hemp. And he sells it to either those who use it to process, or he'll take it to the farmer's market.
There you go.
And it sells out all the time. But that was something he just started. So you said it got flooded, the market. There's folks like him, and it was really hot when they got going. He's still doing it, but it's tailed off.
Right. Well, things get saturated, and that's what's happened with this market. All of a sudden, it's a new thing, shiny new object. Everybody's excited about it, and then it becomes normalized, and it's like, all right, well, I've kind of been there, done that. You know how we are here. It's, wow, this is all exciting. It's great, and then, all right, well, that's kind of like yesterday's news now.
Yeah.
So, but it's still one of these things where it provides benefits, it's the real deal, and there's money to be made in it, and it provides benefits to people, to the environment, to society, and it's not going to go away. It had its big moment, its peak, and now it's just leveling off.
But it's there. And
it's going to continue to be there.
And education is a big, important part of it, which is what I think is so great about the expo. Folks, I mean, what do you get a sense? You do this full time, and your interest, again, is in hemp. You're not in the marijuana field. That's a whole different industry, selling that, medical marijuana, getting stoned high and things. Sure. You're more interested in not only hemp products that help your muscles and stuff, but for construction, for shirts, for clothing.
Right, environmental, things that, like cotton, for example, is responsible for 20 or 25% of the pesticides that we use worldwide, where with hemp, you don't have to use that. You can grow it pretty much non-pesticide, not completely all the time in every place, but it requires far less inputs when it comes to things that are toxic and bad for the soil, bad for the environment. And that's where hemp, when you grow it organically or regeneratively, and it creates materials that can go into the construction industry, the textiles industry, the paper industry, the bioplastics, composites industry that then can satisfy automotive industry. I mean, there's a great automotive industry in the greater Tennessee area and in the South, and if you can make car paneling out of a hemp-based composite that's lighter, it's greener, it's good for the environment, it's good for the auto manufacturers, it's produced right here locally, and you don't have to ship this stuff around the world. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to it.
You know, for years we've been talking about it, and maybe it's transitioned some, but here in Tennessee, of course, moving away from the tobacco industry. I mean, tobacco was huge in Tennessee.
Sure, of course.
There's tobacco still grown here, but a lot of those farmers were desperately looking for alternatives. I remember at one point they were dealing with transitioning their crops into freshwater shrimp ponds, you know, and that didn't last, even though those shrimp were pretty darn good. But I mean, hemp could play that role. I mean, that's the way I look at it. It could be something if it took off. And this is Music City.
Right.
I mean, you can make a guitar out of hemp.
You can make guitars, you can make amplifiers, and I can tell you firsthand that we'll have some of those at the expo.
So hemp guitars at the expo. Okay, so they're made from hemp. You know, I mean, the type of wood into a guitar, I think musicians would tell you, can have a lot to do with the sound and all of this.
And so there's a company in Kentucky called Hempwood that we utilize in making guitar bodies out of, and cabinets, and it's a compressed composite that's with a soy eco binder to it, and it's very hard. It's kind of like a bamboo flooring type thing, but the guitars look cool and they sound cool, and people can check them out at the expo.
I just think that's awesome.
SilverMountainHemp.com.
Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, CBD, the CBD, the tinctures, the gummies, things like that. What has happened to that industry, do you think, to some degree? I remember back when I was getting into it, and I'll tell you a story about how that helped a very good friend of ours at the beginning when she was going through a cancer situation. But what about CBD? I mean, is that market slowed down? A lot of pharmacies still sell it. I see it at various stores,
Well, it has slowed down from the fact that there became, instead of 500 brands, it became 5,000 brands.
Right. And so knowing what was good and what wasn't.
Right.
I mean, it's not ragged, right? And how much CBD were you getting?
No, but there's a lot of, all the big companies that have jumped in to produce this have done it in a way with good manufacturing practices.
Right.
So if you're somebody that's already creating dietary supplements and you have to go through this process that the FDA has put in place, most companies have tried to do that. So they're creating products that are safe for human consumption, and they're doing it in a way that's not going to create issues if you're taking these products. And now there's certainly companies out there that are cutting corners, making stuff in their garage or in their basement, and that's why we need regulation from the FDA, is so these guidelines are put into place and people are doing what they're supposed to be doing when they're creating these products. Again, I think that most products that'll be at our show are created in a way that follow good manufacturing processes. But again, the FDA needs to step up, and they need to do their job, and they need to regulate this market so consumers have more confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
And they are selling. It's not like the industry is tapering off and the revenues are plummeting, because they're not. We had an explosion of 500 brands to 5,000 brands. Now it's 1,500 brands, and it's still too many brands.
If you
at this
Google
point.
it on the computer, and all of a sudden all these and your head's spinning, and you don't know, and the prices. That's why the expo and going there. I assume the ones that you have there, you more or less vet. I know one that I became. I'm not here to advocate for any one. There's several, but Cat's Naturals.
Sure.
I think that's here in Tennessee, is it not?
Yeah, and they've been around for years, and they're a great company, and they make
their product
really solid
worked, as I said, for a friend who was going through chemo treatment, and it was having real issues with her appetite, nausea, and things like this. She didn't want to take some of these pharmaceuticals, and my friend and I would buy, this Cat's Natural one that was for that.
Yeah.
And we gave it to her, and she'd use it every day under her tongue, and it made a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a big, big deal. And then we've had other people call in anecdotally. You know what the issue is with opioids these days and pain?
Oh, for sure.
And this is a no-brainer. If you could take a CBD that did the same for you that an opioid did, and there have been people who've said they've had that same relief, that is not a choice to make. That's obvious.
Right.
I mean, opioids you want to avoid if you can. I understand some people have no choice, and that's fine. But if you have an alternative, and that's worked. Now, is that going places? I mean,
Sure it is.
Okay. Because that's a huge deal.
It is, and we know that the problems that those pharmaceuticals have caused for human health.
Right.
And if you have a natural alternative, and you don't have to worry about a prescription, and you can just go get it, and it works, and it doesn't screw up your liver and all the other side effects that you have, then it is a no-brainer, like you already said.
Take a break. Be back with more with our guest, Talking Hemp, right after this.